Not familiar with that breed, so maybe we'll hear more about that this morning for sure. And it looks to me like I'm close enough to being on frequency to not even bother touching it right now. Which is just oh gosh, I'm just trying to get a few sips of coffee in me here. My alarm went off at about 7:15, and then I have a backup alarm that went off at 7:20, and I snoozed a couple of times, and I really didn't get out of bed until 7:35 or 40. Ran down, grabbed coffee, flipped on all the switches, ran back upstairs, finished the coffee, ran down. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I have had very limited amounts of consciousness so far this morning. So I'll have to get the cobwebs cleared out. So let's see. We got about 5 minutes. Let me just make sure. Steve, you're hearing me fine down there in New Jersey, I assume, right?
Yeah, you're running about 30 over 9, Joe.
All right, well, it's hard to argue with that. Sounds very good. And I guess seeing as some of the other folks toward the top of the list probably have had a little bit of a transmission, and folks toward the bottom maybe have not. Let me flip it over to Bud there and see how he's doing this morning outside of Boston. And then maybe you can, if there's time, flip it over to Mark, and then we'll get ready to launch. K1 Lima Charlie. How are things in Boston today, or outside of Boston? My apologies. This is N1VIV in the AM carrier prenet.
Okay, Joe, very good. N1VIV, K1LC. Yeah, 15 miles southeast of Boston. Ride down the expressway and Route 3. Things are fine here. Cloudy today, though, and temperature 38 degrees. And I guess we're looking to get a lot of rain in the next few days. So I have a ton of leaves out there. Whether or not I'll be able to get to them today is questionable, but I may give it a try. Anyway, that's what's going on here. I'll pass it over to Mark. I'm not sure I got his call correct, though. It's K9 TTS, I think. But, Mark, take it away. This is K1LC.
Yep, K9 TTS is correct. Tango Sierra. Yep, well, I can understand some people not, thinking you shouldn't do that. I understand that. So everybody is welcome to their opinions. Anyway, I don't know. I've been thinking about changing it for some time. Pulled the trigger on it, so there you are. It's cold here in Salem, New Hampshire this morning. Last time I looked, it was 19 degrees, and but the skies were clear. I think it's supposed to be windy again today, though. I think most of the rain that they're forecasting is going to stay, I think, predominantly south of us. I mean, we may get some showers and stuff. But then again, I haven't looked at the weather for probably the last 24, 36 hours or so, I guess. I'm not going to hold it. I will pass it right along. I kind of wasn't paying attention. I'm not sure who I should be handing it to, so Joe, I'll let you handle that. K9TTF.
Yeah, okay, Mark. K9TTS. This is N1VIV. And I'll just mention, I think your signal's fairly strong here, Mark, but your percentage of modulation is a little low. So I'm not sure. I don't think you're running a whole lot of power, maybe 30 or 40 watts. But in any case, I thought I would just give that a mention. You may want to bump the audio just a tad, because the carrier is at about S8 or so here on my not so scientific meter, but the percentage of modulation which I can't see. I know some other folks might be able to actually see the percentage of modulation. That's not something I have the capacity to do. But it seems a little on the low side, but I'm able to hear you just fine. So thought I would put that out for mention. Let's see. Looks like we have less than a minute, so probably no sense in me spinning it around here again. Just running the Viking 2 and the listening on the HQ129X. The reason I was asking Steve about my signal was I noticed it was my antenna had moved around in some recent wind. Nothing too significant. I didn't get a chance to mess with it or anything like that.
Frequencies in use.
Seems to be still working fine, so I can get it. And this time of year, it really kind of reminds me that, gee, wouldn't it be great if I could something like that to take on a full antenna project and hang this antenna at a higher height. There's no leaves on the trees, doesn't see where I'd shoot the arrow, and you know, I don't see it happening with the time that I have. Although I am tempted, with all the extra work I've put into the past few weeks, to take a few days off. So, well, you never know. I'd have to order some things to build up something. So, we'll have to see. Maybe in the spring, before the leaves pop out, there'll be opportunities. All right, it's 8 o'clock. I apologize. I was going on there, and now it's 8:01. So, good morning, everybody. Let me get one more sip of coffee, or maybe two. Definitely required to increase the rate of my consciousness, or the level of my consciousness. All right, let's give it a try. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Carrionet. My name is Joe. My call is N1VIV, and I'm located in Stonington, Connecticut. The AM Carrionet meets every Sunday morning here at 8 a.m. local time here on 3835 on the 75-meter band. The AM Carrionet was established for the purpose of promoting and enjoying operations in the AM mode. It's a casual net, so there's no requirement for check-in other than being able to operate AM. Whether you're trying to resurrect an old boat anchor, or maybe trying to get a more modern radio to sound good on AM, on any given Sunday, there's a whole host of participants with knowledge and information to that end. So all are welcome. Please join in. Format of the net is take check-ins by call district. And if there's check-ins during round one, we typically tack those folks in at the end of round one. And if there's check-ins during round two, we typically try to weave those folks in as we go. So we want to pause momentarily and say good morning to anybody who might be just in the listening mode this morning, whether you're a licensed radio amateur or maybe a shortwave listener. In either case, if you're just listening, good morning. And just want to let folks know if you're checking in, and for whatever reason you're on a short timeline this morning, just let me know when you check in by saying something like, please float me to the top, and I'll do my best to float you up to the top of the net so that we can get you in here, and then off to whatever other responsibilities you may have. And to that end, I will mention that I am limited to about 9:15 or 9:20 today. So my apologies on that, but I've got a commitment that I need to make at church, and it's going to require my that much time, because I didn't get up early enough to get any substantial preparations tied together. So I'm going to have to vanish at 9:15, but we'll make do with what time we have. And if somebody has the capacity to hang around and kind of facilitate the end of round two, that's great as well. So, let's see. The stations that Steve has relayed to me, or I've actually heard, are as follows. K2FW, WF2Q. Apologies on that. Jeff, excuse me, WA2RAS. Rob, N1ALF. Al, W1VTT. Bob, W1VTH. Gary, K1IC, Bud, K1LC. Interesting having those guys side by side. With the similar call signs. There we go. We've got Mark, an old friend with a new call. K9TTS in Salem, New Hampshire. And then Perry, good morning to you, Perry, W3MMR, down there, I believe, just outside of Philadelphia. So I'm thinking conditions will hold well enough that we'll be able to hear you, Perry, well into round one at the least. So I think conditions are pretty good. I was listening a little bit yesterday, and if they're anything like they were yesterday, there was very good, strong signals late into the morning yesterday morning, so that seemed favorable. So let's give a listen for check-ins from the second call district. We'll start with Tulan today just to see who might be out there. Any second call district stations for the net, please call now. This is N1VIV. Well, it's surprising. Jim's conspicuously absent there. And maybe several others, Steve and Rosalind. Stations for the AM carrier net, please call now. This is N1VIV.
KD1SH.
Hi, good morning, Bill. KD1 Sugar Hotel. Excellent. There in the quiet corner of Connecticut. We've got you. Very good. Excellent. Any other one land stations for the net, please call now.
KE1MI.
Okay, good morning to you, Greg. KE1MI. There in Vermont. Excellent. Hearing you just fine. Let's see, any other one land stations for the net, please call now. Okay, so we'll take general check-ins. Any stations, anywhere. Any stations, anywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4s, and beyond for the AM carrier net, please call now. This is N1VID. Okay, so we'll take general check-ins. Okay, well, after a very robust pre-net check-in sequence, we're a little bit lower turnout than initially last week, but I'm sure other folks will turn up and join us. I'll give one more listen just in case. Any stations anywhere for the AM carrier net, please call now. This is N1VIV.
Hey, Joe, I wonder if I could ask you to float me to the top. I'm in the BK29 event, and I want to get back to it.
Yeah, sure. No trouble, Gary. Let's see. Let me make sure that I don't move Bud instead of you, because you guys are right next to each other. K1IC coming to the top here. K1 India Charlie in Fairfield. I'm not sure what that event is, so maybe you could share a quick snippet on it's probably a digital mode or something. Sounds like it might be a digital mode. I apologize, I'm not acquainted with that, but you're up to the top, Gary, and we're in business, so very good. No other check-ins heard, so I'll run down the list, make a few comments, and we'll get this train rolling here. We'll get a sip of coffee. So let's see. I'm going to get things started with some comments, and then I'm going to send it to Gary. K1 India Charlie down there in Fairfield, Connecticut, because he's got some contesting activities going, and that sounds interesting. So K1IC would send it to Steve, K2FW. K2FW would send it to Howie, WF2Q. WF2Q would send it to Jeff, WA2RAS. And WA2RAS would send it to Rob, N1ALF. N1ALF would send it to Al, W1VTP. And W1VTP would send it to Bob, W1GTH. W1GTH would send it to K1LC, Bud, outside of Boston there. And K1LC would send it to Mark K9 Tango Sierra there in Salem, New Hampshire. K9 TTS would send it to Perry, W3MMR, down there in Pennsylvania. And W3MMR would send it to KD1SH, Bill up there in the quiet corner of Connecticut. KD1SH would send it up to Greg, KE1MI. And Greg, if there's any additional check-ins, we're going to tack them in after you, and if not, it would come back up to the top of the list for me for a go at round 2. So we've got just 8:10, and so I'll keep my comments brief. Just to say things are progressing along pretty well with the driving, with my younger son, Hampton. You know, all things take time and patience, and I guess we probably need to have some time and patience with each other. But he's got the decreasing the rate of release of the clutch going pretty well, and you know, it's moving along. So part of me does kind of question, like we've had this has been a, you know, my wife's parents learned on manual transmission. They both, her parents and my dad taught on manual. We taught our older son on manual. Now we're committed to teaching our youngest son on manual transmission. But I'm starting to think about it, kind of along the lines of what Howie said. Is like in another 5 years, we might not even buy a we might not even have the capacity to buy a reasonable used car with a manual transmission. That might just. So I'm not sure. I wonder if all the fuss will be worth it other than keep carrying on the tradition, because I'll guarantee you they won't be teaching their kids on a manual transmission. Our kids won't. I can't. I just, you know. So it may have, it probably has value, you know, conceptually to learn a skill like that and understand it and overcome it. But I'm not sure if there's much beyond that, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I was just thinking about that this week as I was working with him a little bit. He's making great progress and things are going well. In the ham radio world, not much going on other than I enjoy getting in here into this net and operating a little bit from my car to and from work, but 20 meters hasn't been that active during the times that I'm on anyway, and I've got some antenna work on the car to do, so we'll have to figure that out. And well, not much else to report here, so let me get it moving down the list, and happy to hear comments far and wide. I guess if folks have interest in promoting or proposing topics on the net, I'm open to that. Whether folks send it along via email or just float the topics over the course of the net, and then like maybe next week I'll make a mini list and we'll pick a topic. I'm totally open to that as well. So just if folks have particular interest. I guess the absence of leaves on trees prompted me to think about antenna work, so that might be something to consider. Let's see. Let's get it down to Gary, and then on down the list. K1IC in Fairfield and the AM carrier net. Take it away, Gary. This is N1VIV.
Okay, Joe. Very good. N1VIV and what is this? The AM carrier net. This is K1IC, so I'll make it brief as I can. So the Bruce Kelly 1929 QSO party is sponsored by the Antique Wireless Association, and they run the event over 2 weekends a year in honor of Bruce Kelly, W2ICE, who was a founding member of the AWA and a proponent of ancient radio. So the rules here for this, or the goal here, is for people to use transmitters that were built from parts that were available in 1929 or earlier. So typically, I'm using a Type 10 tube with a Hartley configuration configuration for the oscillator. Couples directly to the antenna, and you ground the cathode to key it, so it wanders around a bit as you send CW, and as does everybody's, and it might even chirp a little bit or spit and spark and everything, but it's really fun to see what operation was like back in the day, when back in 1929, so it's kind of fun to do. It started last night at 6 p.m. and I ran through with a break for dinner and chatting and whatnot till about 10:30 when everything got quiet. It's on 3 bands, 160, 80, and 40. Right now, 80 is pretty active with it, so I want to get down to it and make some more contacts. I've made 11 contacts so far, which may not sound a lot for contests, but it's really not a contest. It's more of just a fun thing to do. So I went. I couldn't build one of these things in the time I had. So Bill W1CKI contacted me on the Gray Hair Net last Tuesday, and said that he had a unit here built by George, W1AJG. No, I think that's what it is. And George was W1AUX at the time when he built it in 2002, and he uses a Type 1 tube. And it also has an AM phone section. It uses a Type 41 tube as a modulator. So it's kind of fun to do, but I'm using only the CW portion. And he said, go ahead and take it, because he's not going to use it anymore. So I've got it here, and I was on the air with it last night. I drove up to Stafford Springs on Thursday to pick it up, and got it running Friday night and used it last night, and I'm going to use it now until, I guess, we have till 6 o'clock tonight, but I don't think I'll operate that long. So I did want to get involved. I see that last year Steve was high on the list there. I don't know whether you're involved in it this year, Steve, 2FW, but indeed it's been fun for me to do. I've been reading about oscillators, in particular Hartley, Colpitts, tune plate, tune grid, et cetera, and how the differences there are, and some of the subtleties. So it's been a fun and educational time for me as well. Otherwise, we're moving along, headed towards Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, we're hearing Christmas songs already on the radio. There just seems to be no sense of propriety when it comes to the seasons. It's all about how much money I can make as a business, and Christmas is certainly a moneymaker. So all the barriers have been broken. Pretty soon it'll be July and we'll be listening to Santa Claus. So Christmas in July. So I'll keep that short. I'll pass it to Steve, W2FW. And, Steve, what's really sort of aggravating is that there are some SKCC stations that are on there that I'm skipping because I'm trying to chase down all these ugly oscillators. K2FW and the AWA, K2FW and the AM carrier net. And Joe, I will not be in for a second round. This is K1IC. Thank you for letting me get to the top. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, very good. Very good, Gary. That's very cool. Very, very cool. Now, I don't have a 1929 Hartley oscillator transmitter here. I wouldn't even know where to get those tubes. I have tons of tubes, but I'm sure I don't have any tubes from way back then, so I don't know where these guys are getting them, but it's very cool. I'll have to tune around and listen for you. I'm very curious to what they sound like. Hey, on a quick break, Gary, what kind of power output are you getting from that thing? About maybe 1 or 2 watts?
Yeah, I'm putting in 44 mils at 295 volts, so that's 12.5 watts input, and with 17% efficiency, I'm getting 2 to 2.5 watts out.
Wow, that's a low efficiency. I guess that's the way it is, right? That's very cool. I'll have to tune around and listen to the chirp and everything else. It probably sounds really, really neat. Welcome. Very good on that, Gary. 73s, and don't worry about the SKCC guys. They'll still be there for the coming weeks. Right now, worry about the 1929 Hartley oscillator dudes. So, very good. 73s, Gary, and more signal down this way. Good morning, everyone, and Preliminarily, happy Thanksgiving to all here on the AM carrier net. Been a little busy on CW. I was telling Howie, I had not this ICO. This is an ICO 720, but my other ICO 720 that I have hooked up for CW with a penis line receiver. Had some burning resistors in it the other day when I turned it on. It had that sweet smell of electronic components roasting and toasting, and so I had to put that on the bench and fix that up a little bit. A couple bad ceramic capacitors, and replaced some of the resistors that got a little heated, and made a lot of contacts with it afterwards, and seems to be working fine now, so that's a good thing. Had something very interesting the other day happen, actually yesterday. Yesterday I was on 30 meters trying to work some Europeans on 30 meters, and my one Yagi antenna, it's a dual bander for 40 and 30 meters, 2 elements on each band. And it's usually on 30 meters very, very flat, SWR. So I'm sitting here and I'm calling CQ, and I'm looking at the SWR. It's jumping all around. I'm thinking, oh man, do I have a loose cable or what's going on? And it's up around 1.8, 1.9, and which isn't all that high, but this is an antenna that's usually down around 1.1 or lower. And so I stopped transmitting. I thought, well, let me go take a look visually, see if I can see anything that's wrong up there. So I went upstairs. I walked out the back door and looked up at the antenna. And no exaggeration, there must have been 250 birds all over the antenna, from one end to the other, on all 4 elements of the antenna. And so I just clapped my hands a little bit. They all flew away. I went back downstairs and put some power into the antenna, and it was flat again. So apparently all the birds, and like I said, there was more than 200 of them all over the antenna, must have upset the resonant frequency, and the SWR went goofy on the antenna. And like I said, it was jumping all around. So really bizarre. I've never seen that happen before, and but I was kind of relieved that there wasn't a real problem up on the antenna. So let's see, we got 13 guys in here. I'm not going to hold it too long. Move it along. I get it over to Mr. Howie. Joe, real quickly, I agree with the manual transmissions. It's kind of a shame. It's sort of like CW is learning how to shift a car where the manual transmission is becoming a lost art along with CW operations. So I guess it's just the way it is. My car is a 6-speed stick shift. I've never owned an automatic in my life, but who knows, maybe the next car might be. I hope it isn't, but it's getting very difficult to find stick shift cars or manual transmission cars. 73s, everyone. I'm going to listen out through the end of the first round. I won't be back for round 2. And over to Harry, WF2Q, in the AM carrier net to get it from K2 Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Okay, K2FW in AM carrier net WF2Q. It's 35 degrees here in cloudy Kings Point. On the other side of the room where I'm sitting, there was a 1939 car with stick shift and a 1952 car with stick shift and a 2018 car with stick shift. So, yeah, that's really a problem. A little housekeeping. Jeff, an Argo 2 is an Argo 1 with a digital display, and that was a radio from the early 1980s. It's funny, when I got seriously back into radio after I had a house here with a room and property for antennas, in 1982 I bought a KWM 380, brand new in the box. Harrison was closing them out. They had a great deal on it. I always wanted a Collins radio, and I bought it, and it was built like a Collins radio. It was a great AM radio. It was not a great CW radio. And in the same issue of CQ magazine that they had a test of something else that I was interested in, they had a test of an Argo. And I ended up buying one used, and, you know, Tentec QSK is the best. And I ended up getting a lot more Tentec radio, which I still have. I sold the KW120 for what I bought it for, so that was fine. And that's one housekeeping thing. Al, I think that Rosie was calling CQ sweepstakes, and that's not appropriate on a net frequency, but I'm sure everybody will forgive her. I will forgive the 4 people who tuned up on net frequency. You guys ought to know better than that. Just move 5 KC and tune up and come back. Yeah, we were going down memory lane today, and the bottom line is lots of these old radios just have beautiful audio. Some of it was designed in, like an HRO 60 has an input for a phono, so you can use the audio chain and the amplifier and the speaker that came with that radio to connect to a phono back in the 1950s. And audio and everything else, in my opinion, went downhill with the invention of the solid-state device. Became more convenient, became less expensive, but doesn't sound as good. Anyway, it's fun having all this old stuff around. I enjoy it. I'll never forget my friend WF2LZX. And he was a member of the FOC and that kind of stuff. And he could have a CW QSO going on at 40 words a minute and sit in the room and talk to you about something else. And, you know, when you get to around 25 words a minute, you got a copy in your head because you can't write it down unless you're one of those guys that was trained in the military on a typewriter, which I wasn't. I remember I could copy a lot of this stuff, but I could write it down, but then I couldn't read my writing. So anyway, I learned to copy in my head. I'm supposed to give it over to Jeff, and Jeff, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a digital copy of the December QST, and indeed there is an article about Hal's Fine. Over to WA2RAS, WF2Q.
Okay. Thank you, Howie. WF2Q and the net, and Joe, the SWL, wherever you are. This is WA2RAS. Good morning, everybody. Good signals. Enjoyed the bird story. They were probably friends of Patchett's, your cat. You know, Howie, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for the information on the difference between Argosy and the Argosy too. Yeah, big fan of Tentec equipment and that my Argosy too. In particular, by the way, if anybody on the net enjoys listening to or operating old stuff, as how we puts it, we have the vintage net, which is growing. I'm happy to say on Friday mornings at 8:30 on 3805. Anything that you have that was built in before 1984 would be welcome on the vintage net. So there's that. We're on the Viking 2 today, just like Joe, using the VF1, just like Joe, and listening on the NetCat 111. Not like Joe. One strange thing that happened last night, I was at a play, mainly maintenance, including my granddaughter in the club. They have people of all ages. She's 8, and they have people that were clearly in their 50s and 60s in there also. So it's a nice mix of people. It was a musical, and I just wanted to see her, and my plan was to leave after the second act. And I had still things figured out, and I moved down the aisle, so I would, there was only 2 people that I had to inconvenience to leave, and I timed it perfectly, and I'm on my way out, just the second act is coming up, and there were 2 elderly ladies there, and one of them says, I can't get up. I wasn't prepared for that one. So thinking quickly, I said, I have to go to the bathroom. Anyway, that threw her. Fearing an embarrassing incident. She wasn't being a jerk. She was, obviously not very mobile, and it was a chore for her to but since for me having a bathroom emergency, pulled herself up. I was able to make my escape. So there you go. This will be my only transmission. I will be listening out. On that note, over to Rob. By the way, Rosie is in very, very good health. Over to you, Rob. N1 ALS and the net WA2 RAM.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jeff. Anyway, yeah, Howie, tuning up on the frequency. If you're 5 kcs away, it's not your SWR isn't going to be that effective. I understand what you're saying. And hi-fi stereos. Yeah, I think we talked about this once before, Howie. My old Macintosh. Oh, gosh, I miss that thing. Back from the 70s. Beck and Quinn right here in Norwalk, Connecticut, I purchased it. And went to the clinic once a year to go over it. They're still selling them. I see them at Best Buy. They got one special high-end stereo room, and I walk in there and I see those. And the tubes now are in color. I think they got them in green or something, but I just drool. I don't think I'd ever be at that point with a system like that. But, yeah, I kept the room warm. The amplifier, the preamp, the turntable, and all the other nice things in the tuner that went with it. So the glow of the tubes and the smell and the high-fidelity sound. I can remember my first real good album I played was Quadrophenia through that by The Who. Yeah. On that note, I'm wondering if, Joe, we are going to do again this year the Alice's Restaurant AM carrier net on Thanksgiving morning, as we've been doing. I'm up for it, as long as I'm out of here by 5 of 9, because the other tradition here in this household, not only along with Alice's Restaurant Massacre, is the March of the Wooden Soldiers and Channel 11 WPIX. I've been watching that since since I can remember. In standard shift, I drove all my life for standard. I had a couple cars that were automatic, but they were, like a cruise car or the Cadillac or whatever, my 72 International Scout. But most of the time I drove standard. It was mandatory to learn. And I drove a truck for a living, so it was always. And I think when I went to buy a new pickup truck, people questioned me, why didn't you buy standard? You always had standard. And I said, I shift gears all day long for 8 hours or better. I said, I want to get in something, put it in gear, and sit and relax in traffic. But, yeah, I think standard shifts now are basically anti-theft. An anti-theft device in a car. It was on YouTube. Some gang of kids try to steal a car from an elderly woman, pulled her out of the car, they jumped in it, and it was standard. They couldn't drive it away. So, yeah, if you could teach them to learn to drive standard. I was 6 years old, learned to drive standard on an International H model tractor on our farm there. So, standard wasn't, uncommon thing there, which I think you can still order special orders. My neighbor has one, but anyway, so. On that note, it's like I said, it's cloudy here. You know, it looks like rain. I think we've got something coming in. I haven't really watched the weather too much there, and sitting down here with the Augie Doggy. And I'll only be doing one round myself. And Gary was talking about, I think, the antique, what you call it, their club or whatever, W1GIG, Tim, who's involved in that up here in Westport. So anyway, from my old buzzer transmission, hello Perry out there, and hello Frank, who is listening on the AM Madness thing that I run here on Facebook. So everyone, have a good, safe Sunday, and hopefully we see you on Thanksgiving morning. And when you left, over to, Al, you follow me again like last week. W1VIP. Over to you, Al. In Rosie.
Okay. W1VTT here, and I'm not going to make a long transmission. I will say that I've learned a secret for Rosie as far as her pronouncements that she gives out over the air, and that is... just don't feed her until she's had at least one or two requests for being fed, and that's what those are. She's telling the world that this man is being mean, and he's not feeding me. So that's the deal. So now you know the rest of the story. She's asking to be fed, and she's asking for you guys to put me to shame and get out of my chair and feed her. So when I get through this transmission, I will do that, and then she'll be quiet. Now will only be one and done this morning too. A very stressful day yesterday. One of my kids who was living in has taken up the hobby of raising animals, and that includes chickens, and they had some, she had some on another property, and the tree came down on the coop itself and trashed the coop, so moved everything here. I didn't want that, but it happened. So the hens escaped harm. In fact, they're out right now. That's an awfully small coop that they got. I hope they do okay with that. I wonder if she has plans of picking up even more real estate. So that was done. I didn't do any work on it myself, but just the whole experience was, well, that plus a bunch of other things. So today is going to be R&R day, I think, for me. I'm not even sure I'm going to make the 8WA net this afternoon because I have a large dinner in the plans, the roast beef dinner. And that takes, as you can imagine, takes a lot of time and preparation and get everything ready to put on the table. So that's that. And let's see, what else do I have? And also, I have a 10 o'clock schedule elsewhere. So I'm just, it all adds up to me. I'll listen out for this round here, and then I'll be gone. So, okay, on the K9 TTS, I'll take some getting used to. I think originally that was a cost-saving thing because people were changing their call when they moved into call districts, and the feds were having some issues with cost. And I think somebody made that command decision that if you're moving, you didn't have to do the paperwork to change your call sign, which saves a lot of work. But in the meantime, it went through that you could use a 9-district call sign, even though you're living in one district. And actually with today's antennas and everything, it's not unusual. We had a guy check in to one of the nets that I frequent, and he was a K3 rather, and he lives here in New England. So, but he had just moved, so. And he doesn't have to change his call, which is probably people get to know your call, and I can see the logic behind that, not to be forced. Because I had a friend of mine who was 21GUN, And when he moved to New York State, he assumed a W2 call sign. And for the life of me, I can't remember what it is. I know his full name, so I can look him up that way, but I can't remember his call sign. So, well, that's about it from here. I'm going to try to see if I could rest up. I had a good sleep last night, but just the same. Yesterday was the day I would just as soon forget. So having said that, pass it over to W1 GTH. Over to you, Bob. 7-3 all. I'll listen out, but I think I'm going to go over to my recliner and try to see if I can just get a little bit more into the day here. W1 GTH and the CurioNet, W1 the VTP. And special good morning to my friend Bill, W2BLC, who may be listening. W1 VTP, over, and I'll be listening out.
I am.
W1 VTP and the AM CurioNet, W1 GTH, Bob in Walcott, Connecticut, and good morning all. And yeah, I got a little QRM. Actually, just took you out a little bit, Al, which is almost unheard of. So I don't know if it's something new, but anyhow, Joe, I will only be in here for one round, which is par for the course for me. And as far as the automobiles are concerned, I learned on a 1939 Buick straight 8, and which was left in the yard, in my parents' yard, by my grandfather. And my father didn't know, but when he went to work, I would, at 15 or so, I would take it over to, we had a cemetery, hang on, we had a cemetery across the street from us, and actually that's kind of where I learned to drive. My father had a beautiful 1950 Buick Super that had a straight 8 and standard shift in it, and he taught me how to drive, taught me the rules of the road anyway, and of course he didn't know that I took the old 39 Buick out and practiced with it in the cemetery. But and that straight 8 Buick had a bunch of 1000s, 2000 shims in between the connecting rod cap and the connecting rod, and when the crankshaft got out of round, which it did back in those days, I would have to get underneath, drop the pan, and adjust the shims and try to bring it back into, which would last for maybe 6 months or so, and then have to do it all over again. But anyhow, Steve, as far as the sideband net goes, I have a situation here where what I'm on right now is what they call a 600 ohm dipole, and I bought it from the W7FG, and they claim it's the only true dipole in that there is no break in the wires that come in from the rope into the shack. They're actually coming through. I made a special bracket with notches in it in the back window here. Bring it in, and it's connected to a Johnson matchbox, small matchbox, and then it's connected directly to the ART13, and that's a permanent insulation. So because you guys are on 80 meters now, I'm going to have to figure out something different. And hang on. Apologize, I have this sinus condition, and so anyway, that's the situation. But I'll figure it out, and might even have to get another antenna. But we'll see what goes on here. It's unbalanced all the way into the matchbox, and the ART13 is kind of dedicated to this net here. All I do is flip on the big power supply switch in the morning, and the BC348 receiver, and I'm good to go. And I don't even check the frequency because it's close enough where it's not going to be off that far. So anyhow, hang on. So there's a new Mustang GT500. I've had Mustangs. I've been kind of a Mustang enthusiast, and it has about an 800 horsepower engine, and it has a 6-speed automatic transmission, and they claim that it will get up to whatever speed faster than any human being can shift a standard shift. And but I guess it's supercharged. But I guess the nice part about it is, according to the article I read, is that the interior is quiet as your average family grocery getter, and so it's way out of my price range, but it would be interesting. And I guess they hang on. I guess they give a little free course in drag racing. Offer it anyway, because a lot of people don't understand that when you get in something like that, things don't always go the way that they're supposed to go. So anyhow, so I'm going to get out of here, and again, I will not be back for a second round. I'll be listening out while I'm getting ready to get out of here, and I believe that I'm supposed to turn it over to, I hope it's right here, Bud, K1LC. This is W1GTH 73 all.
Okay, Bob, W1GTH, K1LC. Everyone's coming in great here today. Good conditions. A little bit of interference up the band, but just not a problem at all. Armchair copy. Joe mentioned the standard shift. Certainly that's what I grew up on, and actually took my driver's test with it. And also Rob mentioned about the about learning on a tractor. That's what I did basically before I started driving cars, or I was young, maybe, I don't know, I think maybe 10, 11, maybe 12. My parents used to take us out to Henrietta, New York, which is near Rochester, where my grandparents lived, and they were next door to a large farm, and I was so eager to drive their Farmall tractor that they let me do it, and I was cultivating the cornfields for a few hours without pay, just for the privilege of being able to drive that thing and learn how to shift. And oh boy, I never got tired of that. It was quite interesting. Yeah, our sons grew up with a manual shift transmission, but today, as everyone is saying, they're practically impossible to find. But that's the way it goes, I guess. Technology. It must be, maybe it's a lot less expensive now to build an automatic transmission, although I wouldn't think so, but who knows. And Steve mentioned SWR problems on the antenna. That's interesting about the birds. Maybe they were warming their claws or feet, whatever you call them, with the RF. You see birds sitting on high voltage tension lines. Often wondered why they do that. And somewhere I thought I read it was due to the warming effect. But I have an antenna situation here, similar. SWR jumps around on my full wave loop. Another problem with that. We've had a lot of wind this year, and it's really done a job on that antenna. Right now I'm using the inverted V, which seems pretty stable so far. So that's about it. Running the homebrew 180 watt Class D rig and receiving everyone on the Flex 1500. I won't be back for a second round, but I really enjoyed checking into the first round. And thanks to Joe for running the net. Hope everyone has a good week. And with that, I turn it over to Mark, Salem, New Hampshire, K9TTS. This is K1LC. Take it away, Mark.
All right. Thank you, sir. K9TTS here in Salem, New Hampshire is mentioned. I turned my mic gain up a bit on this thing. I don't know if that's helping or not. I really got to get a good modulation monitor on these boat anchor things. Although actually running this morning the TS950. So anyway, I had the mic gain cranked down for something else I was doing yesterday. Excuse me. Let's see. Al, we have a cat, Jersey, named so because she was a rescue from New Jersey, who is also very, very talkative. I ought to bring her in here some morning when we're doing this and let her and Rosie have a QSO. Somebody mentioned Macintosh amplifiers. I've had and worked on a couple of those over the years. I think I sold the last two that I had. Last two tube ones anyway, a couple of years ago. And I have one or two solid state ones still waiting to be worked on here, but I haven't had time to get to them with so many other things to delve into. But at some point we'll get those done and get them out of here as well. As far as standard shift goes, like several of you mentioned, I learned to drive on a tractor as well. There was a big dairy farm across the street from my parents' house when I was in high school, in junior high school, and I used to work there in the summer times, and not for much money, as somebody else also mentioned, just to be able to play with the equipment. And they had 4 or 5 good-sized tractors and a 10-ton hay truck and a dump truck and a bulldozer, and I don't know what all else, and I got to play with all of those at like 13, 14 years old. So, and I had standard shifts, when I started buying vehicles. I don't know, my first 4 or 5 probably were standard shift, I guess, back in the 70s. So, but anyway, and yeah, it's a good point about standard shift now being turned into more of a anti-theft device, because I'm sure most younger people anyway probably wouldn't have a clue how to drive one unless they had a sports car maybe. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to add, so I won't. I will pass it along. I'll be listening for a little while, and then I got to take off. So, see, I did it again. K9TTF.
W1EKG.
Yeah, there's Ross. Let me get Ross in here. Let me make sure I've got it.
3 MMRs, and that's right.
Well, sorry, I was doubling with somebody. I was just going to get Ross in here real quick. Let me make sure I've got it. Okay, it's going over to Perry, but let's get Ross in here. W1. EKG. Good morning, sir. So, Greg, KE1MI, you're going to send it to Ross, W1EKG. And then, Ross, if there's any other check-ins, we'll tack them in after you. If not, it would come back up to the top of the list to me. So, over to Perry, W3MMR in the AM carrier net. This is N1VIV.
N1VIV in the AM carrier net. This is W3MMR. Good morning to you, Joe. And good morning, everyone else here on the net this morning. Pretty decent signals here. Not the best, as it's been in the past, but it's I got no problem copying folks here. Just on the Anon 200D this morning with the AL80B amplifier and the 600 ohm ladder line fed doublet, 125 foot doublet of about 60 feet. And we're located here in Chester, Pennsylvania, 7 miles southwest of Philadelphia in Delaware County, right outside the big city here. And a little chilly here this morning. Woke up, it was 32, right at the freezing mark here this morning at around 6 o'clock, and it's up to 39 at the moment. So it's only going up into the low 40s today. Blustery, windy, chilly fall day here in southeastern Pennsylvania. So let me run down the signal reports here like I try to do every weekend. Joe N1VIV, you're 20 over S9 here. Steve K2FW was 30 over S9. Bud K1LC was 20 over S9. Gary K1IC was 25 over S9. WF2Q was 15 over S9. WTYS 10 over S9. W1GTH was 25 over. K1LC was 15 over. And K9TTS was 5 over S9. Had a rough copy with him, but nevertheless, was one of my. I have a high noise level here, about S9 to sometimes 5 over S9. So it's not your fault. It's definitely on my end here with the high noise level. So just battling a cold as well. It's that time of year with the fluctuations and a lot of people coming into work sick, and I work on cars for a living, so I'm always in and out of other people's vehicles and picking up germs everywhere I go during the day, it seems like. So just trying to get myself well on my day off here, back to the salt mine tomorrow, and we'll hopefully take some good for a while and get ourselves straight before the work week tomorrow. And real quick comment about the standard transmission versus automatic transmission topic. Nowadays, automatic transmission technology is so good. You just, no matter what, you're not going to be able to shift faster, number one, than an automatic transmission. You're not going to be able to shift better than an automatic transmission. Nowadays, the technology has come so far with automatic transmissions nowadays, with the reliability, ease of service in automatic transmissions, and everything about them. They are. And it's 20 vehicles that come with a manual transmission nowadays. It's almost an impossible feat to find one. But especially with these sports cars, with these new the Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger Hellcats, even Corvettes, even Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Audis, high-performance Mercedes have all gone to the automatic transmission side of things, and a lot of them you can sport shift mode, where you can manually shift the automatic transmissions, but basically just you don't have a clutch. If you want to do it that way, you can there. So that's my take on the whole automatic and standard transmission debate, being as I see them every day. Automatic transmission has become king. But I know how some people like their standard transmissions, but I'd rather have an automatic myself. So I send it over to, I think, Bill, KD1SH. So over to you, Bill. Good morning. This is going to be my one and done. I'm sorry, Joe. I forgot to mention that. This is going to be my one and done. I'm going to try to get some stuff accomplished here while I still have a little bit of energy from this cold here. So over to you, Bill. KD1SH in the AM carrier net. This is W3 MMR 73, guys.
Okay, Perry, very good. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone on the AM carrier net from KD1SH up here in the quiet corner of Connecticut, little town of Ashford, where the sky is gray right now. I was kind of disappointed in that. I thought it was going to be a more pleasant day out there. Looks even like it could rain, but anyway, I guess we got what we got. As far as I learned to drive on a standard, but I have not driven a standard in many, many decades. I gone over to automatics. My first car was an automatic. I've never owned a standard myself. I learned to drive on a few of them, but the thing is, even if you have not driven a standard for decades, you still have this The shift points in an automatic still register to you, even if you're not actually actuating them yourself. You pay attention to them, you notice them, whereas somebody who has never driven a standard ever probably would not pay a whole lot of attention to the shifting action of your automatic while you're driving it. But I do notice it. And my wife's car, she has a Nissan Sentra that has the CVT, the continuously variable transmission, and very nice little piece of engineering. And that little car will get 47 miles per gallon on the right kind of road. Very impressive. But I can't help but find it a little disconcerting not hearing the shifts. It's continuously variable. And because I learned to drive a standard so many decades ago, that's still kind of deeply embedded in my subconscious. I'm listening to the shifts. I'm paying attention to them. And here's this CVT that does not shift. My wife never drove a standard in her life, so she doesn't pay attention to it. But I just find it a little disconcerting. It's kind of a weird feeling when you're accelerating or going up a long hill and you're expecting to hear a downshift and you don't. It's kind of an odd thing. And I noticed that Gary K1IC mentioned the annoyance of early Christmas music. At my employer's human resources office, they started playing Christmas Halloween that time. I believe it was a Thursday. And that morning they were playing Christmas music. And all the big stores down here have their Christmas decorations out. And it wouldn't surprise me if right after 4th of July someday we start hearing Christmas music. I like the time of year. I love Christmas, but it kind of takes the fun out of it, I think, if you rush it a little bit. So anyway, still tinkering with the new acquisitions at Nearfest, but haven't really had a chance to get into them yet. My B&W 5100B and the Gonset G76, although I did order brand new reproduction manuals from Manual Man. I don't know if any of you ever dealt with Manual Man, but boy, that guy's fantastic. He does modern, digitally recreated versions of old manuals that are unlike a lot of the stuff that you will download from the web. These are very, very readable, very nice looking copies. Absolutely excellent. So I ordered them, and I've got all of the capacitors I need to recap the 5100B, but with the settlement of my mom's estate being an ongoing thing, myself and my brother and my sister are working over there pretty much every weekend, getting things cleared up and cleaned up, and I'll be doing that later on today, so that's pretty much occupying all my time. But I also ordered, I don't know how many of you subscribe to Electric Radio Magazine. That is a nice little publication. I like that. And you can order back issues, and I searched through their back issues and found a couple of them that have articles about the B&W 5100B and the Gonset G76. I was looking through the article on the G76 this morning, written by KD0HG, I believe this is called, rather famous AM operator who's now silent key, and wonderful little article about the Gonset G76. And that article gave me a few good pointers on making a few modifications to that to cure a few design issues. So looking forward to getting into that. But anyway, that's it for me right now. I will stick around for round two, unless I happen to be in the kitchen making breakfast and miss it. But I plan on making that pretty quick, so I will stick around for round two. So talk to everybody later. 7-3, and good morning to everyone on the AM carrier net. And I turn it over to KE1MI. Good morning from KD1SH.
Yeah, okay. KD1SH and the AM carrier net from KE1MI. Good morning, everybody. Woke up this morning, 7 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty chilly. And beautiful sunshiny day. Furnace woke me up. I've been burning wood mostly, but when the furnace kicks on, gets me up and going there. So I got up and fed the stove around 3 o'clock and fed it again when I got up. Had to get it going again. Doesn't hold a fire all night. It's not a very big stove. So anyway, learning to drive on a standard shift there. That's how I started when I took driving lessons. It was in the standard. My stepdad was showing me how everything goes with that, and I learned how to drive on a stick shift. And of course, as a kid working on dairy farms up here, learned to drive tractors, and drove the old Chevy C10 with the 5-in-2 transmission. With that little electric box on the side there. You'd pull up to get into high range, and most of the time it gets stuck and wouldn't go down into low range. And boy, it was a pretty poor design on Chevrolet's part, but they were popular. Between the Chevy C10s and the GMC Brigadiers, you guys probably remember all them. They were a miserable bugger to drive or to shift, but they were still just the same. They were a nice truck for the day. Yeah, I get to do all that stuff. Don't drive it anymore. Don't drive standard anymore. Everything's slush bucket here. We keep everything on even keel. The wife doesn't shift, so she didn't learn how to drive. She drove tractor trailer with me, could double clutch and drive a tractor trailer, but never learned how to drive a car with a standard shift. So we keep it automatic. It's just simpler that way. I work for the state, and even most of our new plow trucks are all automatic transmissions. They stay right away from. It's just the cost of replacing clutches and associated pieces parts isn't worth it today, and all our trucks pretty much come with the Allison transmissions in them. And when I left plowing snow, 15 years ago now, I had one. The truck I had just before I left driving had the automatic transmission, and for what we do, I can't imagine ever shifting again. There's no need of it. Not with the advent of that, and engine brakes and all that stuff. So there you go. So got a processor board I got to try out to get into my D10-4 microphonium today. It's from K7 DIY's processor board. At some point along, I'm going to try to get that hooked up. I'll maybe try that D10-4 on the back of this ICOM. I'm on the 7300 this morning running the amplifier, which I got up and going, but I might try stuffing the audio into the back of the thing with the D10-4 and see, because this processor's pretty nice. What's it got? It's got the I'm at a loss of what I'm wanting to say, but noise gate, and you can adjust the modulation on the thing. It fits right in the base of the D10-4 there. So I don't know. It's an experiment. Anyway, guess I'll stick around for the second one. It's too cold to go out and do anything. It's beautiful sunshine. The birds are out there having fun. You got two pairs of cardinals out here. They're fun to watch. It's beautiful. That male cardinal, as red as he is, he stands right out. And fun to watch him and the mourning doves and everybody else. So anyway, let's see. Yes, Ross, you're up. W1EKG from KE1MI. Over.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Just trying to see what's going on here with the plate current on the old T368. Stick shift. Well, I learned to drive on a 1965 Ford F100, I think it was, 3-speed on the column. And my first couple of cars had slush pump transmissions in them. My 1964 Pontiac Le Mans convertible had a 3-speed automatic. My next car was a Ford station wagon with an automatic. And then right downhill, I had a Toyota Corona Deluxe with a 3-speed on the column. Let's see, the BMW 2002s all had stick on the floor. The Bavaria had a stick on the floor. All my Volkswagens, for a while, my first 4 Volkswagens had stick shift. I am driving a Passat right now that just turned over 270,000 miles. That's an automatic. I've already replaced the transmission once. And yes, the new automatic transmissions are efficient, they're quick, and all that, but they just aren't as much fun as a real, honest-to-God, proper gearbox with a clutch. And I am currently toying with the idea of picking up a 2008 Audi Quattro Avant station wagon that has a 6-speed manual with a clutch. I took it out for a test drive a few weeks ago and absolutely fell hopelessly in love with it. But my wife has other ideas. She does not want me buying a newer car than the one I have for some reason. She drives a 2015 Subaru Forester, which does have that infernal CVT transmission. I hate that thing with a passion. What an awful, awful thing. That whole car is just a debacle. And people own them, put thousands and thousands of them on the road. They all love them to pieces. I don't get it. It is uncomfortable. It rides like a buckboard. You can't turn your head 3 degrees without shifting into the next lane. You can't relax when you drive it. The seats are horrible. It just, I don't know. She loves it. So, great. Have a good time with that. But I'm seriously considering the old Audi. It's only got 92,000 on it, which means it's just about ready for a timing belt, which I can do. I just did the one on the Passat out the driveway. But I'll drive a standard transmission. I hope to be driving a standard again soon, and I'll drive a stick until my left leg seizes or something happens. I have liked the automatic that's in my Passat. It does have the Tiptronic, so I can shift it manually, but you do not have the control over that transmission the way that you would if you had a clutch. And let's see, what was the other topic? I don't remember. My brain is frozen up again. Christmas music. I absolutely love Christmas music, but I am the traditional type. I like the Christmas music with a little bit more of a, I hate to use the word religious, thing or something, you know. Go for the more traditional stuff. So, that's it from everybody.
Yeah, okay, Ross. W1HAG, this is N1VIV. So, can you give me the rundown on that Audi? Is it a wagon with a 5 or a 6 speed?
Yep, it's the Avant. It's the 2-liter turbo, 4-cylinder engine, all-wheel drive, so it's the Quattro. It has the only downfall with it, it is a station wagon. I need a station wagon for my business. It does have roof racks. It even has the cross rails sitting in the back, waiting to be used. Even comes with the winter floor mats, and I don't know why it's still sitting on the lot. I took it out for a drive, and it's just like new. It's beautiful, but it is a wagon, and again, with being in the clock repair business, I have to move grandfather clocks all the time. I drive a 2001 Passat Volkswagen right now, and it's virtually the same car as the Audi Avant. Except it's 7 years newer with considerably less than half the miles on it. But the only downfall is it has the light leather interior, the light-colored leather interior, and with the kind of stuff I move around, that may not be a good idea. But there's seat covers and pieces of carpet and things that can cover that all up and you know, keep it clean. But anyhow, that's the scoop. It's a really neat car. The guy's asking about $1,500 overbook value on it, and the wife just says, you'd have to finance it for 5 years. It's like, I don't care. Give it to me. 73, this is W1EKG. I hope to be around for the second round.
Yeah, okay, Ross.